True crime. Randy Kraft, California's serial killer, anyhow, is also known as the Freeway Killer of California. Randy Kraft was a computer expert, a computer whiz. Anyhow, he used to sell computers and fix them. Randy Kraft, the psychopath of California, was also a homosexual, and he raped and killed 67 young men in California and a couple other states also. Anyhow, he was convicted of 16 murders, and they found a scorecard where there were 67 entries. So the authorities believed he killed at least 67, possibly 100, who knows. Randy Kraft has never confessed to the murders he committed. Randy Kraft is a psychopath and a liar and a bad individual, very dangerous. Randy Kraft more likely did kill at least 67 on his scorecard. He also kept souvenirs of the victims, rings, watches, necklaces, so on and so forth. Randy Kraft is on death row in San Quentin prison, waiting the lethal injection needle. He's been on death row since the 1980s. Randy Kraft is one of the worst serial killers of California. He's worse than Ted Bundy. He's as bad as the Green River Killer, Randy Kraft. They believe he killed at least 67 people, possibly 100. He was convicted of 16 murders in a California court, but the authorities believe the number more likely would be 100 people. They're pretty sure that he killed at least 67 on his scorecard. He has abbreviations for the victims on his scorecard. He was a souvenir killer also. He was also a sadist. Randy Kraft enjoyed inflicting pain on his victims by torturing them in bondage and burning them with cigarettes, and he would shove foreign objects up their ass, or their, you know what I mean, cavity. Anyhow, he would rape and molest them and torture them and make the victims suffer. Randy Kraft is one of the worst types of serial killers on planet Earth because he was into bondage, torturing the victims, sexually raping them and molesting them, and inflicting pain. They also believe that Randy Kraft was a necrophiliac that used to have sex with the dead men and the victims he killed. They're pretty sure, though, he killed at least 67 for sure, confirmed kills. I think personally more like 100 or so. Now, he did all this killing mostly in the 70s. And the list of victims is more likely over 100 men he killed. Randy Kraft was a homosexual. Some of the victims had Randy Kraft's bite marks on their body. Randy Kraft was a dangerous individual. He used to put Valium in their beer and drug them until they'd fall asleep, and then he would torture and sexually abuse them, then strangle the victims to death. Randy Kraft was a sadist. He used to torture the victims. Randy Kraft will not own up to any of the killings. He claims he killed nobody, but that's not true, because in court they proved 16 murders against him. And on the scorecard, there's 67 victims and 67 entries on his scorecard. He kept the scorecard in his glove compartment in his car, but the authorities found it. They're trying to identify all the victims he killed. Randy Kraft was one of the worst serial killers in the United States of America ever had. He was worse than Ted Bundy, let's put it that way. Or just as bad. Randy Kraft was as bad as the Green River Killer, Gary Ridgway of Washington State. Anyhow, Randy Kraft is on death row in San Quentin prison, waiting the lethal injection, waiting the needle. But Randy Kraft is a very dangerous individual, and I think Randy Kraft is roughly 75 years old now and still on death row. He's been on death row since the 1980s in San Quentin prison. But Randy Kraft is one of the worst serial killers in the history of serial killing. Now, there's not too many documentaries about Randy Kraft. And if you write him, he won't write you back. Because I already wrote him, and he won't write me any letters back. Randy Kraft is still dangerous on death row. And more likely, he's killed over 100 people. He's a homosexual killer. They used to call him the freeway killer in California. He'd leave the victims along the highway or in the woods or on beaches, and the decomposing bodies they would find, some with teeth marks on them, cut marks, cigarette burn marks, strangulation marks on their feet, hands, and neck. But anyhow, basically that sums it up. Randy Kraft was a very dangerous serial killer, and he mostly preyed on hitchhikers, the homeless people, or any victim that was easy prey. He picked on people that were vulnerable or people that could not fight back. But Randy Kraft probably killed over 100 young men and was convicted of 16. The scorecard said he killed 67. I believe he probably killed over 100. But nobody knows how many he really killed. And unless Randy Kraft speaks, we're never going to know. Maybe on the last minute when he's on the gurney getting the lethal injection, Randy Kraft will confess to actually how many men he really did kill. But if I had to predict it or look into it, I would say over 100 kills probably from Randy Kraft, one of USA's worst serial killers still living on death row in San Quentin prison. Randy Kraft, like I said, is lying, and he won't own up to any of his killings or anything. But I'd have to predict he probably killed over 100. There's 67 confirmed kills on the scorecard list. The court convicted him of 16 murders, but I'd have to say it's over 100 probably. And he would rape these men and torture them and inflict pain beyond human thinking, you know what I mean. Take care, I hope you liked the story. Subscribe to the Dennis Ramsey YouTube channel. And this is true crime. And I don't have no script, and I don't edit nothing. I just say everything about the story. Nothing's written down. It's all shoot from the lips. Take care and have a nice day. Hope you like the Randy Kraft story. One of the worst serial killers of California State, USA.